All right. Hey everyone, Ryan at FRP here, back with you with a 6.4 VVT camshaft breakdown video. Some of you may have seen our 5.7 video that's been updated for 2025, showing all of our latest profiles and just talking about the differences from one to another. Gonna make this about the 6.4 cars and trucks. So similar to how I broke down the 5.7 video, we break it down by obviously engine and vehicle. If you have anything other than a Ram truck, you would use a car kit, and then of course if you have a Ram 1500 as a swap, 2500, 3500, etc., you would use a truck kit. Then you would select your cams. Of course, we have written explanations for the different cams, and I'll try to cover all these as quickly as I can so we don't have a 15-minute long video. Then we have our partial or cam kit with MDS delete option. So the cam kit, the partial kit is how I call it, is just the cam, springs, push rods, and cam tool. And then cam kit with MDS delete has all of those things, including head gaskets, head bolts, cam bolts, cam bolt singular, crank bolt, timing cover gasket kit, valve cover gasket kit, intake gaskets for water pump gasket, and valve stem seal. So in a typical cam swap where we're not dealing with swapping the oil pump or the timing chain, this covers everything that you would need. Of course, we also have those items. I recognize that not everyone wants to just swap cam and lifters. Some people want to do a timing set. We do have those available at additional cost on our website at frptuning.com, which is where you can find this page. Okay, talking about the actual cams themselves. First up is our Hellfire 2.0 cam. We typically sell this with a limiter. This is like if you have a 6.4 truck cam and you use it like a truck, you use it on the farm, heavy towing, etc. This is the cam for you. It's a little too small for most 6.4 car applications. This is really a truck camshaft. It works very, very well for towing and off-road purposes. Next up, we have our Mark 82. This is going to make a little less torque down low, say below, let's call it 4,500 RPM than a Hellfire, but it's going to make more top end. So in a 6.4 car, we've seen typically 35 to 50 wheel in most cases with the Mark 82. We don't typically recommend this for a truck. However, if you wanted to run this in a car or truck application, it is a good option if you're not trying to replace a converter with an aftermarket stall converter. Next cam that we have in this list is our Tomahawk or Tomahawk OG grind. This is a fairly aggressive cam for a stock piston 6.4. If you're after the chop, this is a great option. If you're using this in a truck application, we definitely recommend using a 3200 stall or higher. A 6.4 car, like if you're running this in a Charger, Challenger 300, doesn't need one, but it would benefit from one as far as a stall converter is concerned. With good tuning, the factory converter can be made to work. Tomahawk 2.0 is an updated version of the original Tomahawk grind. The difference between the two, we get this quite a bit, is the Tomahawk 2.0 is ground on a 111 LSA plus 2 degrees of advanced ground in. So the center line is on a 109. This results in a power curve that's 300 to 500 RPM earlier than a standard Tomahawk. From personal experience, I have run a standard Tomahawk grind in a 6.4 Challenger. I had a 6-speed scat pack at one point. I liked it. At the time, the Tomahawk 2.0 was a brand new profile and we didn't have it on the shelf, and I needed to do a cam swap right away, so I went with the standard Tomahawk. Hindsight being 2020, and for those looking now in 2025 and looking to see what cam to run in a 6.4 car, I would use a Tomahawk 2.0. If it's a 6-speed, a Tomahawk 2.0 is a no-brainer. If it's a 8-speed car, I would be looking at a standard Tomahawk if trying to run the factory converter, and I would look at the Tomahawk 2.0 if trying to run a stall converter from Circle D or one of the other popular vendors that sells converters for these. Titan 2 is a supercharger specific cam. Of course, it can be used naturally aspirated. It can be used in other applications. Every cam is a boost cam. That's a whole can of worms that we'll cover in a different video. But this cam was designed specifically with positive displacement superchargers and centrifugal superchargers in mind. It does require a converter if you're using an 8HP 70 transmission. The reason why I specify that is because for those of you that have swapped to an 8HP 90, when this cam is used in the Hellcat platform, the stock converter is acceptable. The factory 8HP 70 converter is tighter than a factory 8HP 90 converter. So if you've already done an 8HP 90 or 95 swap for trucks or Jeeps, this does not apply to you necessarily. It definitely makes a ton of top-end power. So we'll talk about our Trident grind, which is a 237, 249, 112 LSA plus 2. We recommend this for a lot of strokers, like if you have a 6.4 based 426 or anything in that vicinity of displacement. This is a great cam to consider. For low speed, best low speed behavior, we do recommend at least a 3400 stall. 4000 stall, flash stall will produce best results. And while this can be used with, say, like a 6.4 car intake or even a 6.4 truck intake for truck applications, we do recommend the high ram. This is a cam that really doesn't come to life, until 3500 to 4000 RPM. 392 to 398 cubic inch application, you can expect anywhere from 520 wheel on 93 to with a 6.4 intake manifold to, I would say 570, 580 wheel on E85 with a high ram intake. It just depends on what intake manifold's being used. Next up, we have the Widowmaker. Again, this is also a more of a power adder type camshaft. It works well with nitrous, works well with a supercharger. It can be used with turbo applications as well. Again, 3400 stall is recommended. It also works best with an aftermarket intake. What we found when we were doing camshaft testing on the 6.4s was that even if you have ported heads like the ported CNC heads that we sell on our website, frptuning.com, we found that going to a bigger camshaft than, say, a Tomahawk OG grind, while it would make more peak power, the power past, say, 6500 or so does not really increase in a way that you'd expect with a larger camshaft, and the bottleneck ends up being the 6.4 car intake. That's why we recommend something along the lines of a Holley high ram. We typically recommend a lid spacer if your application fits it. The power increase is pretty drastic, but you do give up a little bit of torque below, say, 4,500 RPM in order to make that top end peak power increase. We have the Moab next. It's a 242, 253 on a 112 plus 3. This is also a popular 426 stroker camshaft. It also can be used with a smaller shot of nitrous. 4000 stall is recommended. If you're running a Nag 1 5-speed, you'll want to run a higher gear set, like a 355 or higher. This cam will definitely benefit from a high ram or similar intake manifold for best results. Lastly, we have our LGM 30, which is a 255, 272, 116 plus 4. This is for big boost, big nitrous applications. this is a very serious camshaft. It's not something you'd want to be putting around in. Our recommendation is to use it in something along the lines of anywhere from a 411 to 454 cubic inch stroker application. That covers all of our typical shelf cams for the 6.4 based applications. Of course, we do also have more purpose ground force induction applications. We'll cover that in a different video. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 936-230-3054 or send us an email at info@frptuning.com. We hope this was helpful in selecting a aftermarket camshaft for your application.